I just want to start this off by explaining how funny I think it is that San Francisco is giving Jimmy Garoppolo and his agent the opportunity to seek a trade like that probably hasn't been on Jimmy Garoppolo and his agent's mind for the last year and a half since the 49ers drafted Trey Lance. And honestly, it's probably been on San Francisco's mind even before the draft selection of Trey Lance that they want to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. Honestly, ever since they traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, I think they've been looking for a better option at quarterback ever since. I do think it all is also important to remember Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback for this team when they went to the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback for this team when they went to the NFC Championship game this year. And Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback that had them within one drive of reaching a second Super Bowl during the Garoppolo and Shanahan era. Now, it is also important to remember that Jimmy Garoppolo, his deficiencies as a quarterback and his deficiencies that lead him to just be a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, are also the reason as to why that team made the NFC Championship and made the Super Bowl instead of winning the NFC Championship this year and winning the Super Bowl 3 years ago. Here's the thing about Jimmy Garoppolo as it stands right now. He's never going to be the guy that you're going to win because of. And if he were to be that guy, they would have already won a Super Bowl and they would have never drafted Trey Lance to begin with. It is a fact, though, that Jimmy Garoppolo can be a guy to take a team to a Super Bowl. The problem that Jimmy Garoppolo, and the problem that also I think the 49ers are going to realize within this next couple of weeks that they try to find a suitor for Jimmy Garoppolo, they're a little bit late to the party, B, in a league where there is a lot of really good quarterbacks, and not only are there a lot of really good quarterbacks, there's also a lot of really mediocre quarterbacks where it's like, okay, if you're the Minnesota Vikings, do you really think that the improvement in your team is going to lie within trading Kirk Cousins for Jimmy Garoppolo? Or if you're the Detroit Lions, are you really going to improve as a team by trading Jared Goff for Jimmy Garoppolo? Now, I'm not saying this as a thing to just be an obvious guy. I'm saying this as teams and front offices have become really smart. And I understand that there are some teams who probably aren't as comfortable with what their quarterback position is as I think they might be. But front offices are smart to the point where they understand that quarterback, it's still the most important position in the NFL. But just because you have a good guy at quarterback, you can still have a really bad team in the NFL, a la the Detroit Lions and many other teams that were really bad in the NFL this year. Look, name the 5 worst quarterbacks in the NFL from last year. You would throw out names. You'd have Baker Mayfield in that conversation. You'd maybe have Jared Goff in that conversation. Just based off statistical performance, you'd have Trevor Lawrence in that conversation. You'd have other rookies like Zach Wilson. You'd have some names in there where even though they performed really poorly last year, up until that point, they were thought of as really good quarterbacks. Up until last year, Baker Mayfield was viewed as the guy who saved the Cleveland Browns. Up until last year, Trevor Lawrence was viewed as the most talented guy coming into the NFL last year, and possibly, just in terms of talent, was a top half of the league guy at the quarterback position. Zach Wilson, same exact thing, probably not to the extent of Trevor Lawrence, but the same exact conversation could be had. I think the only guy where you look around in the NFL right now and you're like, okay, that guy's a bad starting quarterback. Like, he's bad. Like, terrible. Like, I don't know who would pay him to start at quarterback. I know if I was a front office guy, if I was a general manager, if I was an owner of an NFL team, I know I would not want Drew Lock starting at quarterback. But the other 30 NFL teams, not named the Seattle Seahawks and not named the San Francisco 49ers, they have either replaced their poor quarterback play from last year, or they're going to be rolling into this season with either a developmental guy at the quarterback position in either his first, second, or third year, or a veteran quarterback who just has proved that he can get it done to a level where replacing him with Jimmy Garoppolo just doesn't make sense, and it's not the improvement that their team needs to win a Super Bowl or even get to a point where they think that they are competitive and comfortable getting into the playoffs. I'm just going to throw up a screenshot of every single NFL team. Let's just go through one by one on every single team, right? Let's just start in the AFC because this is going to be really easy. Bills, no. Patriots, no. Dolphins, no. Jets, no. I'm going to keep it simple with you. Not a single team in the AFC would view trading for Jimmy Garoppolo as the move to push them ahead in terms of getting closer to a Super Bowl. The only team I would come close to somewhat arguing for is the Las Vegas Raiders. But that also doesn't make sense because even though I am biased to the point where I hate Derek Carr and I think he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think if the Las Vegas Raiders had anybody else, literally anybody else, they could have possibly made a Super Bowl run last year with a 10-7 team who, even though they won 10 games, they were the most dysfunctional franchise in the NFL last year with their head coach, with their offseason issues with players, with just everything in Vegas going on last year. The Raiders were a dysfunctional franchise, and they still won double-digit games, something only 4 other teams in the AFC could say. And it's only because of Derek Carr that this team has not gotten any further than a wild card appearance in either time that they've made the playoffs with Derek Carr as the quarterback. Now, the first year that they made it, he was injured in that playoff game against the Houston Texans. But guess what? There's been 8 other years for Derek Carr where he could have proved that he is an elite guy in the NFL. And if you think he has proved that, that's a problem with you. Let's switch over to the NFC. Obviously, the 49ers already have Jimmy Garoppolo, so they can't trade for Jimmy. There's only like 2 teams that somewhat make sense. And one of them I'm not even going to say makes sense. I'm just going to say it because everybody else is saying this team. Look, the Seattle Seahawks. I need you to look in the mirror. I need you to ask yourself. The Seattle Seahawks fit exactly the kind of mold that, actually I should say it this way. Jimmy Garoppolo fits the exact mold that the Seattle Seahawks would want as the quarterback of their franchise. And it would be a complete switch from the Russell Wilson years that apparently Pete Carroll just hated witnessing, even though he was witnessing the greatest player in franchise history on the offensive side of the ball. He was witnessing that greatness week in and week out for over a decade. Apparently he hated that because he couldn't hand the ball off to Rashad Penny and Kristen Michael and an aged Marshawn Lynch by the time it was year 4 or 5 of Russell Wilson. But look, even though Jimmy Garoppolo fits exactly what the Seattle Seahawks would want to do, why would they do it? Why would they do it? They have Jimmy Garoppolo already, and his name is Drew Lock. Now, I am in no way saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is as bad of a quarterback as Drew Lock is. I think we're going to look at this trade where Drew Lock got traded for Russell Wilson. I understand that Shelby Harris was in the deal. I understand that Noah Fant was in the deal. I understand that the first-round pick was in the deal. I understand that other things were in the deal other than Drew Lock for Russell Wilson. But in 30 years, do you think people are really going to say, oh, well, the Seahawks, look at this haul they got for Russell Wilson. They got a tight end. They got a defensive tackle who was 30 years old at the time of the trade. They got a first-round pick who they probably took a guy who was very undervalued by the other 31 teams in the NFL. Every single other team in the NFL probably wouldn't have taken that guy even in the first round. But the Seahawks love Charles Cross, and he's going to be a guy for 4 years to play probably 3 different positions on this team and not end up starting by the time he is up for his second contract. No. What everybody is going to remember in 20 years is that Russell Wilson, a guy who won this team their first Super Bowl ever, and has a chance to take the Denver Broncos back to the playoffs for the first time since Peyton Manning retired, and be an elite quarterback with an elite offense and a good defense to boot. Nobody's going to remember everything else. We're going to remember Drew Lock for Russell Wilson, and we're going to remember it as one of the worst trades in NFL history. This is something I've already said. So why would the Seahawks add Jimmy Garoppolo at this point? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And even though he fits their mold, he doesn't fit their timeline. The only other team I could see making a shred of sense is the New Orleans Saints. And it would only be as an emergency option because I think they really like Jameis Winston. And they have reason to like what Jameis Winston did last year as the quarterback for their franchise. But they have no reason to believe that there's a real better option that they could realistically add to the quarterback position to make it better. And look, this is just how the NFL is right now. Like I said, you look around the NFL, compare Jimmy Garoppolo to every single other quarterback in the NFL, he either falls short of the standards of that quarterback or he doesn't fit the sort of timeline that those respective teams are on. And he doesn't fit the certain mold of a quarterback that those teams want. Like I said, I think all 16 quarterbacks in the AFC are either more talented, had better production last year, or just fit with their team better than Jimmy Garoppolo does. I think the only guy in the AFC that Jimmy Garoppolo might be more talented than is Davis Mills with the Houston Texans. But Davis Mills put up better statistics than any other rookie quarterback last year. And if you're the Houston Texans, why would you pay a guy $26 million to come and lead their franchise to a 6-11 record? It just doesn't make sense. And that exact same thing could be said about every other NFC team as well. There's not a single team that can look at Jimmy Garoppolo and say he's the difference for this team. And if you're the 49ers, look, this is something I've said not a lot, but I think this is something to kind of think about. Jimmy Garoppolo has been available for a long time. I think if San Francisco would have gotten a deal around the trade deadline last year where they could have said, you know what, we are looking like we're in a good spot to make the playoffs. Now, halfway through the year last year, they actually were looking kind of bad, and it was probably the right time to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. But guess what? He turned it on to end the season. That defense turned it on to end the season. Brandon Ayuk, the rest of that offense, the skill position players, especially Deebo Samuel, who deserves every single penny he's going to get with his contract. That team really turned it on to end the season. And for a 6 seed to make the NFC Championship, to beat everyone's favorite coming out of the NFC, except for the Rams, the 49ers proved a lot last year, that they are still a team capable of making a Super Bowl run, even with Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback. But look, if teams would have wanted Jimmy Garoppolo, they would have got Jimmy Garoppolo by now. This is the same exact thing. I understand it's a different sport, completely different circumstances. It's the same exact thing I said about Kevin Durant a couple of days ago. If a team wanted Kevin Durant, they would have got him by now. If a team really wanted Jimmy Garoppolo, they would have got him by now. And not only is Jimmy Garoppolo not in a spot in his career where he is the productive quarterback that can just take a team over the hump, he's probably towards the end of his prime. And his prime wasn't really the greatest thing ever either. So if you're the Niners, you're kind of going to just have to eat his contract over the next couple of years if you really can't find a trade suitor. And I think it's really looking, honestly, highly probable that this team does not move on from Jimmy Garoppolo by the end of the offseason. And if Trey Lance isn't going to work out as the starter, we probably see 10 to 12 games of Jimmy Garoppolo as the starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers.